Hello and welcome back to another episode of Tobacco Road and Abroad. My name's Gareth Parsons, joined by Aiden Moore, and we've got quite a week for you guys. We've got coach firings, we've got conference tournaments, we've got drama surrounding who coach hiring. So we've got it all for you. But I'm going to start with just saying like the elephant in the room. Obviously, those of you who don't know, it blew up a lot more than I thought it would. But NC State fired Kevin Keatts following this season, following a disastrous season that which just the cherry on top was the Miami game. So we'll get into that, break that down a little bit. Then we'll get into some conference tournament stuff, talk about that, predictions, maybe talk some more bubble stuff after the coming week. So what we want to see in the tournament, what we want to see from these conference tournaments. So a little bit of everything. But first, I'll start off with Keats. Do I think the firing was justified? Absolutely. Like there's no question about it. I know there's some NC State fans that say I thought he had another year. Like I thought a Final Four would buy him another year. Honestly, this is one of those arguments where I disagree with it, but I can at least see where they're coming from. I can see it, but my point to that is Kevin Keatts is responsible for two of the worst single seasons in NC State basketball history. If you adjust for the fact our schedule's a lot longer than previous bad seasons, like I'm not talking about the 1938 season when NC State went 0-2. Like we're not talking about that. I'm talking like the modern like 30 to 35 game schedule where Kevin Keatts went 11-21 in 2021, 2022, and 12-19 in 2024, 2025. And if I'm being honest, like I'll start with this. I don't hate Kevin Keatts. I think he's genuinely a good guy. I don't have any issues with him on a personal level. I think he really cares about the players. He really cared about developing as not just them as athletes, but also them as people. And that's kind of a sign of a good coach that like you're trying to, your legacy isn't just what these players put out on the court. It's like the people they become, which I can applaud the coaches that like to take that extra effort and take that extra step. But I think Kevin Keatts can be a good coach. I just don't think he can be a good coach at State anymore. I'm not sure if I mentioned it on here. I have a theory about Keatts. Kevin Keatts is a great high school recruiter. He is good at finding really, really young, really, really promising talent. Examples, Terquavian Smith, Darian Sebron, Trey Parker, Dennis Parker Jr., Paul McNeil. Like basically, think of the NC State freshman phenoms over the last 3 or 4 years. He's really good at finding that talent, but where he has really struggled is the portal. Last year, we got lucky and struck gold. Obviously, DJ Horn. DJ Burns was actually a few seasons ago. We've actually had him for 3 seasons, but that adds into my point. I think Keatts is really good at developing players from start to finish. But the problem is you have to be able to pivot in this NIL era. The second that NIL and the transfer portal came out was when Keatts' kind of tenure started to trend downwards. Pre-NIL, Keatts was doing pretty good. He made the tournament, I think, 2 or 3 out of the 4 years prior to NIL he was here. He was decent against our rivals. I mean, he didn't beat them every time, but like he split with them. But then once, players could transfer freely, and I'm not talking about players could always transfer in college basketball. Like it was not uncommon at NC State to pick up a transfer or two. But that was back when the transfer portal was not something you put yourself in. You just, hey coach, I'm unhappy here. Can I contact other schools? Yes, sure, go ahead. That's fine. But when it became like anyone can transfer, that's when he really struggled. Because like I said, where I think he succeeds is where he can have a guy for 3, 4, 5 years, a redshirt year, and then you have him to develop for 4 years. And we saw that with people like Markel Johnson. He took a very raw kind of, player who played with a lot of emotion to his benefit and detriment and was kind of able to hone that. Like I said, he was able to take DJ Burns from just kind of DJ Burns when he was at Winthrop was more of a gimmick than anything else. He had great post moves, but just like he was his size, I know this is going to sound weird, his size was an advantage, but there were certain disadvantages that came with that size. Keats got Burns to NC State, got him to slim down, and Burns really started progressing as a player. Keats taught him how to not get into as much foul trouble on defense, taught him how to, essentially he got him in shape. Yes, he struggled to get up and down the court, but he got him better at that. Like I said, Keats is good when he's able to develop players over a long period of time. But like I said, NIL era, it's not where it can happen. So, final thing I will say before I get into the criticisms of Keats. Yes, I appreciate it. Like, I am thankful for what Kevin Keats has done for us. He, obviously some of my best memories of NC State basketball are associated with the Keats tenure. And I'm grateful for that. I'm not saying I'm ungrateful. I know at times I've said things like, I'm not sure the Final Four was worth it. I've never said the Final Four wasn't worth it. When asked for a hot take, I said hot take, the Final Four was not worth the pain. I got a bunch of likes, but I also got a bunch of hate comments. But the post was asking for hot takes on NC State's basketball season. So they asked for it. But that wasn't me saying I give up the Final Four run. I'm just saying that was me thinking we'd also keep Keats. I was saying the Final Four run wasn't worth, 2 seasons of 12 and 19. Like
that's your take to have. That's your take to have. I mean, I think at the end of the day, like, it is good that you guys got that Final Four run, but there's a lot of questions to be answered. Like, was the juice worth the squeeze?
Yeah, and I love it. Trust me, from a pure enjoyment standpoint, like, that was some of the most fun I ever had watching March Madness. Now, I will say, there are different types of fun in watching March Madness. I'll get back to my Keats point in a second. This is after the initial disappointment of not making the tournament wears off. It's kind of fun not stressing over a game.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of fun not going, well, we have a first round upset. Well, fuck, we've got the 1 seed next round. Like, we're going to get fucked, like, on national television. Like, I saw someone have this similar take about a Panthers fan have this take about the NFL playoffs. He goes, the nice thing about being a Panthers fan, he goes, for most years, he's like, I can just enjoy the NFL playoffs and just not be mad at them.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, unless I bet on them. But he's like, that's a simple problem and simple solution. You don't bet on them.
Yeah.
But now, back to the Keats thing. Like I said, I will always be thankful for the Final Four. I'll be thankful for some of the great times I've had watching NC State basketball. Being at Providence, traveling to watch NC State play Boston College for 3 years in a row. That was fun. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed sitting right behind the state bench, hearing Keats, watching him coach. I appreciated his play style. I can appreciate a full court press, I can appreciate the conditioning that takes us up, the work, the preliminary work you have to put forth before, like, the amount of just running you have to do before you even get into the strategy. Like, you spend most of your summers running to get in shape for that and sacrificing, precious time scheming. Now, I know that's, there are certain teams that have different philosophies on that. Like, I know there was an interview with Rick Pitino the other day that he says he conditions with playing basketball, which I actually think is very wise, but that'll be another episode where I talk about that. But let me get to the criticism of Keats. I think schematically there was just some issues. He had trouble scheming open shots. Like, if our players were ever having trouble getting separation, which, for any basketball team, that happens. There are nights where that happens. He really struggled with getting open, consistent, high percentage shots. But what I will say is he was good at coming out with initial game plans. I'll give him that. I'm talking first halves. I cannot even begin to count the amount of times we're coming into a really important game with Keats, and he comes out with a solid battle plan. We come out there, we look really good in the first half. We're giving it to a team, or we're keeping pace with the team. But then we go into halftime. The other team makes the necessary changes, as you would expect. And they'd come back out in the second half. After about a minute or two, it's clearly like, the other team's made some changes, and you're like, oh, okay, you can respect Keats for still trying to see if they actually made the changes, because sometimes that doesn't always, like, they try to make the changes in the locker room, that doesn't work. But it becomes clear the other team's adjusted. And then the game goes on, and then a couple scoring droughts later, we're like, well, shit, Keats hasn't changed. Like, Keats hasn't changed, our philosophy here. Like, we need to change this. And, we end up losing the game in some heartbreaking fashion. That was my main problem with Keats, was he did not make the necessary changes for college basketball. And in essence, the entire this is a gross oversimplification, so, take this with a grain of salt when I say this. I'm not saying this is exactly what college basketball is. But in my mind, college basketball is about how well you can make changes, how well you can adapt, and just playing the cards you're dealt. Obviously, like, play the cards you're dealt, but, be able to make changes, be able to find other things when things aren't working, be able to persevere, next man up. If you're not able to do that, you're not going to succeed as a college basketball team. It's all about being able to pivot and go in a different direction when something doesn't work. And fundamentally, that is not what Kevin Keats is right now. Yes, he went to a Final Four series. Some people are probably saying, well, he figured it out. No, Keats was forced to play that lineup based off of, like, injuries and eligibility and MJ Rice stepping away from the team. That was the rotation Keats had to play. I'm not taking any credit away from that, because obviously he built that lineup and the strategy around that lineup, but, like, Keats lucked into that lineup last year in the philosophy that worked in that tournament. So, but like I said, in response to anyone who thinks we've done Kevin Keats wrong or that this was unwarranted or impatient, I'll say what I said earlier. Kevin Keats was responsible for 2 of the worst seasons in NC State basketball history. So, what I will say, well, I will probably go into more depth once a name is chosen, but sorry, hit the voice changer on accident. To kind of end on a positive note, I always like to give criticisms on here. I don't like, if it's something where I'm actually serious about and I give criticism on here, I do the cliche compliment sandwich. I was like, hey, this is what Keats did for us. I really appreciate it. Great memories. Like, obviously, Aiden and I had like an hour, like had like a 15-minute phone call after the State Duke game last year in the Elite Eight. Aiden called me from wherever he was and was like, yo, dude, what the fuck just happened? That was awesome. He goes, bro, what the fuck happened? He's like, Duke just fell apart. Duke looked in control, and then State blew him out. But then I gave the criticism, Keats has trouble adjusting. And like I said, he can build rosters, but the thing is, he needs them for a set period of time. He's not good with people coming in and out. He needs time with rosters. So, here we'll end with something hopeful to kind of, complete that compliment sandwich, or as you will, or, constructive criticism sandwich. For those of you who don't know, and for those of you who do, I'm sure you've seen the NC State fans demanding and, all up in Will Wade's comment section. For those of you who don't know, Will Wade is the current coach of the McNeese State. I forget what their mascot is. The McNeese State Cowboys. Or as Will Wade's created an alternate identity where on alternate jerseys they call themselves the Bayou Bandits. Fooling on himself. But just a quick overall on Will Wade. Will Wade, for those who don't know, NCAA recruiting violations, but hey, that was before paying players was cool.
He who has cast the first stone, he who has not sinned cast the first stone.
Exactly, that's my point. Ideally, when you're hiring a coach in this NIL era, ideally you want recruiting violations.
That means you're experienced. Like, honestly, clip this right now, and I'm going to say it live. Clip this right now, 14 minutes and 30 seconds in. If you're hiring a coach and he doesn't have any recruitment violations, you're not hiring a good coach anymore, because there are no recruitment violations anymore. You can give a 13-year-old $1 million and tell him to go play for freaking Wichita State for football. Like, nothing matters anymore. You need recruitment violations nowadays. And this has been Aiden's advice for all college programs. Hire somebody with a sketchy past. What's the worst that could happen?
I will add
Thank you.
one caveat, because I do agree with you. The only caveat would be Sean Miller. He has legitimate felonies. Yes, he does have recruiting violations, but he's got legitimate like felonies that are like not like would be on Deshaun Watson level Man of the Year award felonies.
Oh, okay. I didn't know
That
about that. I didn't know about that.
no, but
But
no,
let me
no,
just say about my boy Rick Pitino, though.
yeah,
Listen, will I say what he did at Louisville was the best thing ever? No. But did he give what his players wanted? Yes. And that's what you need in this NIL era. Just give what your players need. So, like, that's free Ricky, free Ricky. Like I'm glad he's at St. John's right now, but free Ricky.
yeah, exactly. And that's what I'm saying. That's why some NC State fans wanted Mark Godfrey to come back, and like his coaching tenure, not even just at NC State, is recruiting violation after recruiting violation after recruiting violation. I saw a meme the other day that said Mark Godfrey would clean up in the NIL era. Like they're like, bro, if Mark Godfrey wasn't fired at NC State for having 2 horrible seasons, they're like, he low-key would be cleaning up in this NIL era if they were able to weather that storm. He low-key, that's either like biggest NC State what if. What if Mark Godfrey was in the NIL era? But back to Will Wade. Fired for recruiting violations? Yes. But he's had, my thing with Will Wade is he's had success at several levels. And I know I brought this up about on the podcast previously about Ben McCollum, but Will Wade is just Ben McCollum with more Division I experience. So Will Wade, he started out at Chattanooga, I think as an interim. He started out at Chattanooga. No. Will Wade, he started out at Chattanooga. He went 22-10. He finished second in the Southern Conference. Then he went to VCU. Won 2 straight A10 titles. 1 regular season, 1 conference tournament. Then he went to LSU. His first season, they went to NIT, was a little rough, won 18-19. Second season, won the SEC outright. Third season was COVID. Likely would have made the tournament. I'm going to give him that he'd make the tournament that year because he went 21-10 and was 12-6 in conference play. So I'll give him that he'd probably make the tournament that year. 2021, he went 19-10, made the tournament. 2021, 2022, he made the tournament, but he's not credited with it because he got fired for recruiting violations, even though it was in the paying players is cool. And then at McNeese, before Will Wade versus after Will Wade, a plus 20 different win differential. So from 2022 to 2023, McNeese State had a horrible record. 2023, 2024, McNeese State went 30-4 and had a win differential of 20 from the previous season. So he immediately turned this program around. Now Will Wade's team's looking even better this year. They're 25-6. They're in the Southland Conference title game.
You sound like a droid right now.
Let's hope it's okay, but if it's not, there's some clarity first. So let's hope it's good.
This sounds horrible.
Oh well.
Oh, there we go.
Let's hope it's good. Oh, there we go. I won't touch that button again. No, like I said, Will Wade, obviously very promising, has made the NCAA tournament 7 out of his 11 years of coaching. He's big on defense. He loves forcing tough shots, contested shots. So everything you love in a defense. Then obviously other one, Ryan Odom, current VCU head coach. This guy is just he loves his balanced teams. Currently VCU, for those of you who don't know, the net adjusts stats based on strength of schedule and like team strength and who you play. His offense is ranked 41st and his defense is ranked 22nd when adjusted. He's 12th in offensive rebounding. He's 6th in defensive efficiency. So I like Ryan Odom for different reasons than I like Will Wade. I think they're both two very good options. But Ryan Odom, his emphasis is on everything that NC State's really bad at, which I like because it's fixing the obvious glaring mistakes. Number one, these are his keys. Like these are words he said. His keys to anything and like what he stresses, and the stats back this up. Relentless offensive rebounding. He sees it as even if you win the game, he sees it as a loss when you get out rebounded. 2, free throws. His main focus on offense is hitting your free throws. It's free points. As the meme says, it's free money. Then he likes effective, smart shots. He was previously at Utah State before he was at VCU, and at both schools, he is 8th in effective field goal percentage. For those of you who don't know what that means it's not only do his teams like to take effective, smart shots, it means they are good at hitting effective, smart shots. NC State this season took good shots. Did they hit them? No. And that's why they sucked. Oversimplified version, obviously. But, like, he is good at getting players into positions to succeed. Fun fact for Ryan Odom. Several fun facts. Blueberry facts, if you will. Ryan Odom and I have a lot in common. Not only were we both born in the Triangle area, not only were we both at one point in our lives residents of Winston-Salem, North Carolina, but we are both born on July 11th. So, fun fact. And more fun fact for you sports fans. You remember that UMBC team that beat Virginia, and not only just beat Virginia, absolutely spanked them? Ryan Odom. His success at UMBC got him the job at Utah State, and then from there he jumped to the A-10 with VCU. So those are just two of the top candidates right now that I just want to touch on. Get in that little Keats rant on the positive note. I think we'll be fine with either of them. I think Will Wade is the better hire because he's got more experience at the Power 5 level. As a Power 5 coach, he's 105-51, and in conference he's 55-33. So that I'd say that's pretty solid. But like I said, obviously there's some other names that have been floated out there. Sean Miller, yes, the one who I just talked about is Deshaun Watson, Man of the Year bad. He's reportedly interested in the NC State job. But what I will say is I think that's a bad move for him. There's a lot of turmoil right now in the Big East. The top dog UConn's down. Yes, St. John's is the new bully on the block, but there's kind of a power vacuum in the Big East right now. And he has a lot of players returning. He has an opportunity to seize on that power vacuum in the Big East right now. I don't think going to NC State right now would be the best move for him. Obviously, I think NC State is a better job than Syracuse. I think it's a more prestigious job, but he's going to have a sweet deal next year at Xavier if he can play his cards right. So why would you go to rebuild a program when you could have a sweet deal and essentially make a name for yourself in the Big East with Xavier and reinstate them into power? So that's all I will say. Other names that have been floated around include Jay Wright, trying to bribe him out of retirement. I'd love that, but that's not going to happen. We are not going to hire Jay Wright. But, hey, we've seen crazier. Aiden and I sat on here and said UNC's not going to hire Bill Belichick. And what happened? UNC hired Bill Belichick. What I will say is my final thing. NC State fans have said, why don't we pull a UNC? But for basketball, just go all in on some big NBA name. I have one better for you, State fans. NC State already has done that before. They went all in on a really successful NBA coach. Now, granted, I know Bill Belichick's not a UNC alum.
Greg Popovich?
No.
No.
State has
like that would be the equivalent of you doing it this year.
Yeah. But NC State has done this before, and people will call me crazy. But this guy came back because of his connections to the university. This guy won a national championship with NC State. Most times, the national championship you think about when it comes to NC State. Sidney Lowe. Sidney Lowe was a successful NBA coach prior to his tenure at NC State. He had MVPs. He'd been to the finals. He made the playoffs. Successful NBA teams. Decides, after the Les Robinson era, he goes, you know what I need to do? I need to come home and fix my alma mater. After Jim Valvano left and became the NC State AD, we hired Les Robinson, who, by the way, you don't know anything about that. No prior coaching experience. Like this is like some dude they just pulled off the street. Basically, the equivalent of pulling him off the street. He's like, let me go back and fix my alma mater. Horrible idea. Sidney Lowe, probably second worst coach in NC State history ever. So I'm not saying that's how that's going to go for Carolina. I'm just saying that's how it went for State when NC State was like, let's splash the cash. Let's go get a real big name. So, but that's all I'll touch on for NC State individually. Shall we hop into ACC tournament play and cover some things that went down today? Some things are going to go down tomorrow, aka today.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, unfortunately, UNC was unable to clinch 2 byes and will be playing today. UNC lost to Duke earlier, like this past weekend. Good, hard-fought game, but in the end, didn't really Duke just was able to pull away in the final 8 minutes, and it was just all Duke from there. But going into the ACC tournament, first round of play has wrapped up, and Notre Dame took Pitt down in a thriller. We had Cal beating Virginia Tech. Hang on, if I can just pull my notes up. And we had Syracuse beating Florida State today, which leads us into our second round games. Our second round games, going in chronological order, are going to be Georgia Tech versus UVA, Notre Dame versus UNC, Cal versus Stanford, and Syracuse versus SMU. Garrett, do you want to kick this off first and highlight some today's games that you think are going to be of that you're going to be keeping your eye on?
One game I'm going to be keeping my eye on is Syracuse and SMU. SMU is still kind of looking for that marquee win. They've been kind of really weird this season. They're the rare team where they do everything they're supposed to do and everything they're not supposed to do. Here's what I mean by that. They win the games they're supposed to win, and they lose the games they're supposed to do. But unless you're a ranked team who does that, if you're just a middle-of-the-park Power 5 team who does what they're supposed to do, like wins the games they're supposed to win and lose the games they're supposed to lose, that's not a recipe for making the tournament. That's not how you make the tournament. Unless you are already ranked that season for some reason, or are really good, or just favored in games you shouldn't be favored in, that's not a recipe for success. But by beating Syracuse, SMU can get to Clemson. SMU was not able to beat Clemson in the regular season. SMU can get that marquee quad 1 win, and if they win that game, who do they have next? The winner of Louisville versus whoever wins the Cal Stanford game. I think if they can get on a little bit of a run, SMU can beat Clemson and Louisville. I think that'll get them into the tournament, but honestly, I do not know. Another game I've got my eye on is Notre Dame and UNC. Notre Dame coming off of a kind of exciting win, last-second thriller. UNC was kind of on the bubble, was on kind of the inside of the bubble. Now they're on the outside of the bubble after the Duke game. This is a must-win, and for UNC, they're 1-10 in quad 1 wins. So what they need to do right now is in this ACC tournament, they just need to get as many quad 1 wins as possible. I don't know of a number that will work to get them in, but at this point, the more wins, the better. Like for me, I wouldn't necessarily put UNC as a must-win the ACC. I think they could feasibly get to the semis and still be semis. They might still be sweating if they get to the semi. You'll probably still be sweating on Selection Sunday.
Yeah.
But I'd say there'll still be a good chance to get in. I'd say if they want a chance of getting in without being overlooked, I think they need to at least make the finals, not necessarily win. If you want to be comfortable on Selection Sunday, but the majority of teams are not comfortable on Selection Sunday. So what more do you want? So
yeah.
But I think UNC's got this one. I think they just need to use this as a warm-up one, get their minds right for Wake Forest, because Wake Forest is another team that's itching to prove themselves. An example of a team who has, until the last 3 games of the season, done everything right. They're like SMU. They've won the games they're supposed to win. They've lost the games they're supposed to lose. But they're kind of on that crest. They were almost ranked, but not. So, like I said, if you're not ranked and you are like, you're a team that behaves. We'll coin that term. A team that behaves, does what they're supposed to do, wins the game they're supposed to win, lose the game they're supposed to lose. If you're a team like that, you don't really stand out. You've got it. The thing about March Madness that's so beautiful, and it hasn't been as a case as of late, is they when the committee makes selections, they try to make it seem like a science, but it's really a mesh of the numbers and vibes. Like we talked about this last week on the podcast, that there legitimately used to be a stat last 10 called the last 10 games. And that was a thing they factored in to essentially determine who was hot right now. What are the hot trendy teams? And I think that's a valid statistic. But sometimes you also kind of got to go with your gut. And I feel like in order for teams like Wake and UNC to, give people that, gut feeling that'll get them in the tournament, or give them that gut feeling, I think they can win a game or two in the tournament. It starts with UNC and Wake winning a few games here in the tournament for me. So those are the games I want to keep an eye on. I'm not sure if there's some games you want to keep an eye on as well. I know there's some. Go for it. Sorry.
I mean, obviously, I am going to be breaking down a little bit of the UNC Notre Dame game. I think this is a good start game for UNC, especially to going it after such a tough loss against Duke. I'm not saying Notre Dame is a pushover at all. Notre Dame has just taken down a pretty dangerous Pitt team. So I'm on my this isn't a get right game for UNC. This is a get ready. Like this is more of a sudden death game. Like you cannot afford to lose to Notre Dame. For me, when I'm talking about UNC when it comes to Selection Sunday, my magic number is 2. You need at least 2 wins. And this is what I've said. We can date this back to a couple weeks ago. I was saying when the remainder of your games lose to Duke, win 2 tournament games, you're in my opinion. So far, they have done everything that I've said so far. They need to get these 2 tournament wins. They need to get a win against Notre Dame. They need to get a win against Wake Forest. Ideally, I think they can get a win against Duke or the winner. Like it would in my ACC bracket, it is Duke that goes into the semifinals. But Georgia Tech or Virginia could pose a threat to Duke. We don't know. But if I'm UNC right now, I need to focus on getting those 2 wins. Semifinals, I say ideally they could win, but a lot of things are moving into place that make me say that if UNC gets those 2 wins, I believe they will be in the tournament, or they deserve to be in the tournament. Just looking at games for today, I'm gonna obviously SMU Syracuse. That's a big one. I'm gonna be giving some attention to maybe Cal and Stanford. Just seeing these 2 California teams go against each other in the ACC tournament, I believe there's a novelty to that. This is their first ACC tournament. I've been very impressed with Stanford shooting. Their ability to get rebounds against UNC was something that I thought was pretty big, as UNC doesn't have those big bodies that really helps them get rebounds. I thought Stanford was able to capitalize that and able to prove themselves very well against UNC when they were on the road. UVA versus Georgia Tech. I'm pretty high on Georgia Tech right now. I think they've done a lot for me lately. Like they had a tough loss against Wake, but some solid wins against Pitt, NC State, and Miami. And with UVA, they've been hot and cold for me. Really cold against UNC and Clemson and Syracuse, but able to get a pretty surprising win against Wake when Wake was kind of starting to fall apart a little bit. So that one is kind of something that's making me say that there's more to this Virginia team. I'm high on both of these teams, but given the ACC and a little bit of the unpredictability, I gotta say maybe give me UVA in this matchup. I think UVA might be uh, giving Georgia Tech a little bit of an upset here. That kind of sums up today's predictions for me. But when looking at the ACC bracket, just breaking everything down, I believe the championship, just looking at my bracket, I think I would have Duke and I'm split between SMU and Clemson right now because I think those are two really strong teams. So give me Duke and Clemson and give me Clemson to win the ACC championship right now. Like that's like I try to throw in a little bit of unpredictability because I don't always think the number one seed's going to win. Like I think that's a fallacy that we have. So I have Clemson winning the ACC tournament against Duke in my bracket. What do you got, Gareth?
I'm staying 10 toes down on what I said in October. I'm staying 10 toes down on it. All right.
What?
So I think, so much like you, I see a lot in Clemson. Clemson retained a lot of talent and reloaded where they lost it. So I think Clemson is primed for a deep run in March Madness. Even if they don't win the ACC, I think we're going to see Clemson at least win 2 or 3 games in the NCAA tournament. Definitely will be in the – I think they're even – I'm not saying they're a lock, but I think there's a decent chance they'll be in the Elite Eight. However, on the northern side of the bracket, this is where things get a little shaky for me. You know, I like to have some unpredictability. Like you say, usually the 1 seed doesn't usually win their conference tournaments. So this is where I'm staying 10 toes down on what I said back in October and November. Give me Wake Forest out of the top side of the bracket. And then give me Wake Forest to win the ACC championship for the tournament.
No, man, I got UNC beating Wake Forest. I'm sorry. Like in my opinion, UNC has a better shot of winning the ACC tournament than Wake Forest. You're telling me that Wake Forest is going to be making? They've been falling apart this latter half of the season. I admit this Wake Forest team is dangerous, and there's a lot of things going against them. But they lost to freaking NC State, didn't they?
Yeah, by 14. But hey, like Goonies
If this was
never say
earlier,
die.
if this was earlier Wake Forest in the season, I would agree with you. But I'm sorry, I'm going to have to disagree with you on this one.
This Wake Forest team looks a lot like a certain team from last year. You know, a certain team from last year. This certain team from last year, they looked at and say, "Hey, you need to go 3-2 the rest of the way to be a lock for the tournament." They go 0-5. This year, this Wake Forest team, hey guys, it will be like cool if you go 1-3 the rest of the way. I think you'll be in. They go 0-4. I'm just saying, team, you know, the calm before the storm, they fell apart, you know. This Wake Forest team's got the pieces. They've got the pieces. They've got Hildreth. Hildreth, gritty player. He can play fancy basketball or he can get it done and get down and dirty inside the paint. Obviously, Hunter Salas as always. But like I said, NC State last year, they're like, hey guys, you know, you kind of need to have a winning record here down the stretch in these last 5 games. 0-5. Wake, you know, like guys, you need to go 1-3 here. Goes 0-4. Give me Wake to figure it out. I'm not saying USC doesn't have a chance because I think they do. For once in the ACC tournament, I don't think a double-digit seed is, you know, I don't think it's possible for them to make it to at least semifinals. I just think the double-digit seeds there are a little bit weaker than they have been in the past. So I got Wake over Clemson in the ACC tournament.
Moving over to the Big Ten tournament and this absolute monster of a bracket.
Speaking of disappointment.
This absolute monster of a bracket, though. I don't know if you have the same bracket that I have right now, but like this bracket's just like not ugly, just like aesthetically ugly in my opinion, just because damn, this is a big
It's
conference.
it's
But
literally the ACC bracket.
but I hate it. I
True,
hate
I
it. I don't like seeing just like I'm just not like messing with this as much as the ACC bracket, and that part of that, in my opinion, kind of has to go down to the fact that like I don't know, it's just maybe either the teams is just like how like I don't like these big mega conferences. It's just that's just all I'm trying to get to right now. But um, I guess starting with Wednesday's games, we got Northwestern, Minnesota, Iowa versus Ohio State, USC versus Rutgers. So, I mean, there's not really that much that you can like break down when it comes to like round one of conference tournament. I guess the game that I'm going to be keeping an eye on is definitely USC versus the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. Uh, Mainly just because like I think it's a solid matchup between two 15 and 16 teams. USC has kind of been like they're favored to win this game. They've been a little like kind of on a major slide ever since like Penn State. They went like freaking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They went like one in only won one game in their last like six matchups. So I think like USC's kind of being a little bit on a cold streak right now. Not necessarily the biggest fans of them. And Rutgers, in my opinion, like they just seem, I guess, more solid. There's they're more experienced when it comes to like tournaments like these. I like their performances against teams like USC in the past, Washington, Minnesota, and being able to get a win against top 25 team Illinois. I really like Rutgers, and I think they can get the win against USC. If I'm looking at the entirety of this bracket, I could see I see Rutgers winning in round one, going up against Purdue. I'm not high on Purdue whatsoever, so I might just say that Rutgers beats Purdue and then moves on, but I'm not that crazy yet. So I'll say uh, Purdue moves on. Um, Illinois, who's playing the winner of Iowa State versus Ohio State. You know what? Screw it. You know what? This is one thing that I want to go on a rant on. How the hell? So Joe Lenardi has Ohio State on like the bubble right now. Has them in the tournament right now. They're playing round one in the Big Ten conference game. I'm sorry. If you're playing round one of your tournament in a tournament where there's two byes, like, I'm sorry. I don't think you should be in consideration for the NCAA tournament. You need to make a hell of a run, in my opinion. I pray, I swear, I swear to the Almighty, like, I want Ohio State to lose to Iowa so bad. But you know what? I have Ohio State beating Iowa, moving on, playing Illinois, and Minnesota will be playing Wisconsin. Uh, with that, Purdue plays Rutgers. Purdue moves on. Illinois plays Ohio State. Illinois moves on. Wisconsin plays Minnesota. I'll have Wisconsin moving on. Indiana plays Oregon. I have Indiana moving on. Oregon's overrated. Indiana plays Michigan State. Do I say? I mean, like, Indiana plays Michigan. You know what? Screw it. Indiana moves on. Wisconsin plays UCLA. I have UCLA moving on. Illinois plays Maryland. I got Maryland. Purdue versus Michigan. I'll give it to Purdue. Purdue versus Maryland. Give me Maryland. UCLA versus Indiana. I'll take Indiana. And you know what? My conference championship is going to be Indiana versus I believe I said Maryland. Give me Maryland winning it.
Yeah, I feel similar about this bracket. I just don't like it. One, I don't like championship games on Selection Sunday. I'm sorry. I don't like.
That's too pick me. That's too pick me right there. That's like, oh my gosh, we're technically getting it done before Selection Sunday. I'm like, yo, shut the hell up.
Bro, we don't like waiting for you. We don't like waiting for you. Like, God forbid your game go to overtime. Oh my God. I'm just sitting there like, please fucking take me out and shoot me. Like, I'm sorry. But here's how I look at the Big Ten tournament. USC Rutgers. Rutgers kind of a trendy team right now, and they're kind of trending in the right direction. So I've got Rutgers over USC. Ohio State, Iowa. Obviously, I've got Ohio State in that one. They're kind of up and down. They do lose some games they're not supposed to, but for me, for the most part, I've got Ohio State. Then Northwestern and Minnesota. Does it really matter which one I pick at this point? But Northwestern's had some frisky games in which they've upset Ohio State. So give me Northwestern. Then second round, Indiana, Oregon. Oregon's a team where I've talked about on here where the metrics don't exactly like. There's certain teams where it's like the metrics don't match. Like there's teams that are really good, but they've got horrible metrics. Like I'm talking offensive efficiencies in the gutter. They play at an absolute fucking snail pace. They take horrible shots. Their defense is bad, but by some miracle of God, they can generate turnovers, and that's how they win games. Then there's the opposite. There's teams who are fucking terrible, but have good analytics and statistics. That's Oregon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, if you blind resume look at Oregon, like I'm talking, you don't even look at wins, losses. You just look at their statistic. You don't even look at the individual games. You just look at the number of wins, the number of losses, and you look at other statistics that the net values. They're one of the highest rated teams in the nation. But when you actually look at the wins and losses, you're like, shit, this team sucks.
Yeah.
they're ass. That's another thing with the net where I'm like, it can overinflate really bad teams. Hence, like Villanova last year, Oregon this year. But second round of the Big Ten tournament, I've got Indiana over Oregon, much similar to the Aiden. Then I've got Wisconsin over Northwestern. Then from there, I actually have Ohio State over Illinois. And then I have Purdue over Rutgers. Moving on to the second round, I then have Michigan State over Indiana. Their little run ends. I actually have Wisconsin upsetting UCLA in the quarters. From there, I've got Maryland beating Ohio State. And then from there, I've got Purdue beating Michigan. That leaves me with the semifinal of Purdue, Maryland, Wisconsin, and Michigan State. From there, shock upset. I've got Wisconsin over Michigan State to send them into the finals. Then from there, I've got Maryland taking care of business against Michigan as Michigan tends to fold against the better competition. And much similar to the Aiden, I've got Maryland in my championship game. And but opposite from Aiden, I've got Wisconsin winning it over Maryland. I think Wisconsin's kind of got that, sneaky factor. They can be consistent, but they're streaky enough where it's like, they can make some stuff happen.
Good
they're a good program. They've got some solid stuff behind them. They're kind of that perfect mix of, unpredictable, but also having, some base to build off of. And that's why I like Wisconsin as a team.
Yeah. Yeah. You want to move on to the SEC now?
SEC, yes.
Alrighty.
I'm not taking half of the conference.
Well, the ACC conference matchup also starts today. Tipping it off is Arkansas versus South Carolina. South Carolina just not a very good team this year, and Arkansas, you say what you want about them, but they've been pretty solid at times, able to get good wins here and there. So I got Arkansas moving on. Vanderbilt versus Texas. Vandy has been on a hot streak lately. I got to go with Vanderbilt. Mississippi State versus LSU. I mean, I'll go Mississippi State. Georgia, Oklahoma. Georgia I believe is pretty underrated. Do I think they're like tournament good? No, like they need to prove a lot more to me, but I understand why a lot of people are high on them. So I got Georgia moving forward. With that, I got Arkansas versus Ole Miss. Give me Arkansas. Vanderbilt versus Texas A&M. I'm kind of iffy on this. Like part of me wants to say like Vanderbilt because with their like magic, they can really make a run. But this Texas A&M team's so good. You know what? Screw it. Give me Vanderbilt beating Texas A&M. Missouri versus Mississippi State. Give me Missouri. Kentucky versus Georgia. Do I have 3 upsets in the second round of the SEC tournament? Because there are parts of me that are really sketched out by this this Kentucky team. So I might have to go with Georgia on this one. Give me Georgia beating Kentucky. So with that, I have Arkansas versus Auburn. Give me Auburn. Vanderbilt versus Tennessee. Give me Tennessee. Missouri versus Florida. Give me Florida. And then Georgia versus Alabama. Georgia's run stops. Give me Alabama. Auburn versus Tennessee. Give me Tennessee. Florida versus Alabama. Give me Florida. And the championship game is going to be Tennessee versus Florida. Give me Tennessee.
Certainly interesting. I do agree with a lot of that. I have some differences. I do have a decent amount of upsets in this, but I also have some differences from you in this regard. Just kind of looking over my notes here, I'm going to jump into it. I'm going to start it off with, I think, unfortunately for South Carolina, lightning will not strike twice and Arkansas will move on. I've got Vanderbilt over Texas as well. Mississippi State. I think Mississippi State is the first ranked team to be a 10 seed in a conference tournament. So they're the only exception where I think a team who was in the first round of a double bye tournament deserves a spot in the NCAA tournament. They're ranked and they have a winning record in conference.
Mm-hmm.
Then this is where my bracket for some of you would start to fall apart. I've actually got Oklahoma with the upset over Georgia, knocking them off the bubble. Knocking them off the bubble. This is an Oklahoma team. Yes, they've been bad, but they've looked solid in some games. They've looked solid against some really, really good competition. This Oklahoma team won at Arkansas. I believe they have the season sweep over Arkansas. This Oklahoma team as well. Let's look at what else they've done this season. They've blown out a ranked Mississippi State. They've blown out Missouri. They've taken Kentucky to the wire. They've beaten Texas on the road. This is a team that they have the potential within them to pull off some amazing things. They've beaten the 3 seed Michigan in the Big Ten. They've beaten Arizona, another ranked team. They've beaten Louisville, a trendy team in the ACC. Yes, some of these things are reaching back to last year, but that just shows that Oklahoma is able to pull off the magic in some big moments. And SEC tournament is a big moment, so I've got Oklahoma over Georgia. Then from there, I've got Arkansas, Ole Miss. Ole Miss, yes, they're ranked, but they are the most streaky team along with Arkansas. You could flip a coin for this one. For me, I've got Arkansas beating Ole Miss. From there, Vanderbilt, Texas A&M, very much similar to South Carolina. Lightning will not strike twice for Vanderbilt. Texas A&M with the win. Then from there, Mississippi State and Missouri. I've got Missouri. I think this is going to be a close competitive game. I think Missouri is going to win. Mississippi State has been in and out of the top 25. I think this loss here for Mississippi State will make them sweat a little on Selection Sunday, but ultimately I still think they will be in. Then from there, I've got Oklahoma and Kentucky. Man, this is a game that I've thought about for about 5 minutes now straight. I've thought about it before. But thinking about it, I've got Kentucky. I think it'll be close. Oklahoma has played Kentucky really, really close this season, but I think, unfortunately, lightning will strike twice for Kentucky, and they will move on to play Alabama. Moving into the quarters, this is where my upset comes in. Call me crazy, but I do think this team is really good, but I've seen their flaws. I think Calipari pulls it off. Arkansas is going
Oh,
to win over Auburn. Then you've
okay.
got
Okay.
Texas and Tennessee. This is a toss up. I think they split their regular season series. You really could go either way here, and no one would bat an eye. I think in the tournament, Texas A&M's kind of righted the ship as of late, so I've got Texas A&M beating Tennessee. Then we've got Florida, Missouri. Florida's scorching hot right now. I got Florida. I know, kind of a boring take, but Florida's been looking solid, and I'm not going to knock them. Then Kentucky, Alabama. I got Alabama. I think they continue their winning ways. They're riding high. We're currently in the semifinals, where I think, unfortunately, this is where the dream will end for Arkansas. Tennessee beats Arkansas in the semifinals. Then from there, I've got Alabama beating. I already said. Did I already say I have Alabama beating Florida? Or no, I had Alabama beating Kentucky. I've got
Yeah.
Alabama beating Florida, and then the SEC final. I've got Texas A&M and
No,
Tennessee.
Tennessee.
Oh wait, I have Tennessee. Oh wait, yeah, no,
Tennessee.
sorry.
You have Tennessee versus Alabama.
Oh, sorry. I have Tennessee versus Alabama. And then from there, I think the winner of the SEC will be the Alabama Crimson Tide once again. I think, like I said, this happens every year with Alabama. They start off hot, then they kind of get into a lull. They kind of figure it out into conference play. They win the SEC tournament, maybe in a not so convincing fashion. But then, they figure out the term, they go on a bit of a run, but then they kind of run into a roadblock. That's how Alabama is. I'm not saying that's how they'll be this year, but that's just my take on the SEC this year. But as a result of that SEC tournament, I think these teams will be left out. I think after that happening, I think Georgia will be out. I think Arkansas will have just done enough to get themselves in. Mississippi State will get in, but will be kind of sweating. Texas is definitely out. Vanderbilt, unfortunately, I think will be out after that if they don't win a game or two. Part of me is with this SEC thing, with people taking 75% of the SEC, is they forget about the conference tournament. Like, things can happen, yes. Usually when they are looking at bubble talk, you're saying, if everything goes well, this is what's going to happen. But for me, I think this SEC tournament will help certain teams more than it'll hurt certain teams more than it'll help them. So that's my take on the SEC tournament.
Moving on to the Big 12 tournament. Round one has already happened. And with that, we had Cincinnati beating Oklahoma State, Colorado beating TCU in an upset, Kansas State beating Arizona State, and UCF taking down Utah in an upset. That starts us off with round two today with Cincinnati versus Iowa State. Give me Iowa State. Colorado versus West Virginia. There's some inconsistencies in this West Virginia team, but I am not high on Colorado whatsoever. So give me West Virginia. Kansas State versus Baylor. I'm not to be boring and predictable, but I got Baylor winning this one. And UCF versus Kansas. Give me Kansas in that one. That leads us to Iowa State versus BYU. Give me Iowa State. West Virginia versus Houston. Give me Houston. Baylor versus Texas Tech. Give me Texas Tech. And Kansas versus Arizona. Give me Kansas. That leads us to Iowa State versus Houston. Give me Houston. Texas Tech versus, I said Kansas. Give me Texas Tech, and then that would lead to the championship of Texas Tech versus Houston. I'm going to have to go with Houston. Houston's just too good, in my opinion. With how up and down the Big 12 is, they have a lot of solid teams, but it's like SEC light, in my opinion. And the fact that it's very loaded, a lot of good teams. I just think Houston's just been able to, like, as the top dog, they've just been able to kind of keep themselves above everything. I was really impressed by their win against Texas Tech on the road. They've just proved themselves in and out for me. So I think they're going to take advantage of the big time opportunity. And I don't think I don't see as many shakeups in the Big 12 as I do other conferences.
Yeah, the Big 12 is my boring bracket. Outside of the upsets that have happened first round, I've got Iowa State over Cincinnati, West Virginia over Colorado. Then from there, I've got Baylor over Kansas State. Yeah, I've got Kansas over UCF. Then from there, I've got Arizona over Kansas. I've got Texas Tech over Baylor, Houston over West Virginia, and BYU over Houston. From there, I've got in a close, thrilling matchup, I've got Houston over BYU. And then from there, I've got Arizona over Texas Tech. I think they're going to figure it out for 2 games. And then from there, I've got Houston winning the Big 12 against Arizona in the final. Shall we move on to the 5th and final Power 5 conference?
Yes,
Like,
and then after that, I do have like some mid-major conference tournaments that I can bring up, and let's also give some shout outs to some clinched spots in the tournament.
Oh, definitely,
But
absolutely.
moving on to the Big East Conference, we have our first round starting today, tipping off with Providence versus Butler. Give me Providence in that. I know you guys have been like not the best, but like I don't know. I'm just defaulting towards Providence right now, just because I just feel like they're able, despite their injuries, I think they can pull together a win against a team of their caliber. Georgetown versus DePaul. Give me DePaul. Give me DePaul on it. DePaul is going to get hot. DePaul is going to get hot against Georgetown. Georgetown notoriously, granted they had that great tournament run back in like 2021, was it?
Yeah.
I just don't see this Georgetown team making a deep run though. So give me DePaul, and then Villanova versus Seton Hall. Man, they give me Villanova. St. John's versus Providence. I'm sorry, Gareth. I'm going to have to go St. John's. Xavier versus Marquette. Give me Marquette. Creighton versus DePaul. Give me Creighton. And then Connecticut, UConn versus Villanova. Give me UConn. St. John's versus Marquette. Give me St. John's. Creighton versus UConn. Give me UConn. St. John's versus UConn. Give me St. John's.
I actually have not thought a lot about the Big East tournament as much as I would have liked, but I agree with a lot of what you said. I know you say you don't watch as much Big East as certain people, but I think you give yourself less credit. You don't give yourself enough credit. I do think you do know a fair bit more about Big East basketball than you let off.
I think that I know more than like the layman, but I'm just not as like in depth as I would like to be.
Yeah, so getting things started, Providence, Butler. Providence split the season series with Butler this year. Providence winning the first matchup on January 8th, 84-65. Then Butler not quite returning the favor, but Butler winning on February 8th, 82-81 at the buzzer. So I wouldn't say it's equally traded blows, but a win nonetheless. From there, so I will have, for me, Providence fans do travel, and even when the team's not as good, the one thing you can count on for Providence, and ESPN posted a video of this. It was a video of the Providence-Georgetown game this year, and the crowd was just going ballistic, and the caption was, mind you, neither of these teams are slated to make March Madness. And it's just like a full crowd, student section going berserk. So Providence fans travel despite what's going on, so I've got Providence in this one. Then DePaul, Georgetown. I'm sorry. This Georgetown team was sitting at 13-4. I think the slide continues. I've got DePaul. Then from here, Unfortunately, I don't think Seton Hall can make magic happen twice this season. They won't get another shot at UConn. I've got Villanova. Then from there, I know, Aiden, that you don't have us, but it has taken St. John's 2 buzzer beaters to beat Providence twice this year. Twice St. John's has won at the buzzer. Twice St. John's has won at the buzzer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Give me Providence.
I like it. I like it. I like it a lot.
My only logic is, for whatever reason, Providence has had St. John's number. Of all the teams that have been swept by St. John's, and that's every single team but Creighton, Providence has come the closest. Yes, UConn was close, but UConn did not lose at the fucking buzzer twice. That's a horrible way to go. This Providence team is fired up. Kim English, we talked about on the last podcast. Providence lost on a free throw tip because the referee blew the whistle too early. Kim English is pissed off. He's lost at the buzzer twice to St. John's. I think he's got something cooked up for them. Granted a win in the first round. I think he's got something special cooked up for St. John's. Now, with that being said, I do have St. John's going very far in March Madness. I do think that might knock them off the 2 seed line if that happens. I wouldn't wish that upon St. John's. I like them as a team, but give me Providence in that one. Then Xavier, Marquette. Hot take. I know Xavier was the trendy team. They didn't do shit to deserve to start this year ranked, and they haven't done shit since then. Yes, they have a win over UConn, and they've beaten, I think, Creighton once. But I really don't see a lot in the Xavier team. Give me Marquette. Then from here on out, we've got Creighton and DePaul. I love DePaul. If Providence doesn't win the Big Ten, or Big East, I would love nothing more than for DePaul to win the Big East. But unfortunately,
We live in reality.
We live in reality, and I cannot say the nickname I have for this player, so I will not. Give me suspicious-looking white guy in the Creighton Blue Jays to beat DePaul in a close one. Then, from there, it's happened once already this season. They're sliding. I think Kyle Neptune does just barely enough to keep his job for one more day. Give me Villanova over UConn. It's not.
I was gonna say that would be like, I know I have UConn going a pretty long way into the finals, but I would not be surprised if I saw that happening. I'm gonna be real, like, because sometimes I feel like UConn's very like hot and cold, but like that's not ridiculous. That's not ridiculous to say that.
But here's where we come back down to reality. Providence has lost on average to Marquette by a margin of 28. We live in reality. Colloquial wisdom and the statistics back up, you usually don't lose to a team 3 times. But I'm sorry. I cannot justify a win here no matter what. So give me Marquette to go on to the Big East Finals. Then I think the dream ends for Villanova. Same with Kyle Neptune's job. I've got Creighton winning over Villanova. Then me standing 10 toes down on who I had winning the Big East. Yes, are they missing Pop Isaacs, one of the best players in college football, or college basketball? But give me the Creighton Blue Jays over the Marquette Golden Eagles to win the Big East. And I think ultimately that will propel Creighton from about an 8 seed to around a 5 or 6, giving them a more favorable matchup.
Indeed. Moving on. I'm not going to lie. I've been putting more thought in this bracket than most brackets I have made. For some reason, I've been putting more thought into the A10 bracket than I have to the SEC bracket. So, bro, going into the Atlantic 10 conference bracket, we're starting off with a tip-off of Davidson versus Richmond. Richmond, horrible, like not that good this year. So I got Davidson winning it. Okay, and this is where I'm going to kind of like piss you off a little bit. URI versus Fordham. I got URI making a run in this tournament. I'm not going to lie. Like I don't like I see Rhode Island and I'm like, I don't know. I just see the potential for a big run with them. And then so I got Rhode Island beating Fordham. UMass versus LaSalle. Okay, LaSalle was doing good, but they just absolutely collapsed at the end of the season. And I'm granted, I'm probably putting more thought into like this matchup between a 13 and 18 LaSalle team versus a 12 and 19 UMass team than anybody in the media right now. But like, listen, UMass has like a little bit like kind of if we're going off vibes, UMass, in my opinion, has like it passes the vibes test just a little bit more just because they were able to get that win against URI. LaSalle, they were also able to get that win against LaSalle. LaSalle just absolutely like LaSold, in my opinion. Like they've just not been good in this latter half of the season. So with that, I got to give it UMass. Moving on. Next, St. Bonaventure versus Duquesne. Like the 8th and ninth seed of this tournament is just really showing like a divide between the conferences because Duquesne is just not on the same level of St. Bonaventure. I got St. Bonaventure. Moving on. Then we have St. Louis versus Davidson. Give me St. Louis. George Washington versus URI. Give me URI. I'm telling you, I'm feeling the URI magic right now. And then we got St. Joseph's versus UMass. Give me St. Joseph's. VCU at the 1 seed going up against St. Bonaventure. Call me crazy right now. Listen, I see VCU and I like VCU. They're really good off shooting it, and I see a lot of good aspects of this A10 conference. But give me St. Bonaventure in this. I've just seen St. Bonaventure play, and I just like their style of play, especially at the matchup against VCU. I think St. Bonaventure could be pulling some magic against VCU right now. Then we got St. Louis versus Loyola. Give me Loyola on that one. And then URI versus George Mason. The URI magic stops, in my opinion, right here. Give me George Mason to move on. That gives Dayton versus St. Joseph's. Give me Dayton. Then we have St. Bonaventure versus Loyola. Give me St. Bonaventure. And then Dayton versus George Mason. Give me Dayton. My championship round is going to be Dayton versus St. Bonaventure. I think I'm going to have to go with Dayton on this one just because I think St. Bonaventure is going to be too expended and just like gassed out at this point. And I believe St. Bonaventure has all the intangibles to like really make a good run, but I think they're going to gas out at the end. So at the end, I got Dayton winning this one.
This one is certainly a interesting one because I feel like what happens the A10 is going to determine how many mid-major slots there are for the NCAA tournament in particular. So for me, first round, I've got Davidson over Richmond. Davidson has the ability to turn it on at any point. And for those of you with really good memory, this is the Davidson team that beat Providence by 20. So keep an eye on them. Then
A10 teams
on.
against Providence.
Another A10 team that has success against Providence. I've got URI over Fordham. Fordham's just the definition of ass right now. Then give me the LaSalle Explorers over University of Massachusetts. Like I said, UMass basketball, yes, they've gotten a few wins this year, but I think they've just been a product of who they were able to play and when. They just were. It was just they had.
They're able to beat LaSalle though.
Yeah, but they're not going to beat LaSalle again.
Aiden when Gareth says UNC's going to lose to like, okay. Aiden when Gareth questions UMass versus LaSalle. I am more passionate about the A10 right now for some fucking reason. I don't know why.
Then round 2. I agree. I got St. Bonaventure over Duquesne. Sorry, the state of Pennsylvania just has too much going for it right now. I'm sorry. Give me
Indeed.
St. Bonaventure. Duquesne, I know you're in Pittsburgh, but hey, you guys just got fucking DK Metcalf, so shut the fuck up. All right, now we've got Davidson versus St. Louis. Give me St. Louis. They're looking good right now. Then you got Rhode Island and George Washington. George Washington, the landing place of current fan favorite Providence basketball player Rafael Slim Castro. Mr. All height, no muscle mass. But hey, he's been cooking this year. Give me Rafael Castro and the George Washington Colonials over URI.
You son of a bitch.
Then from there, give me St. Joe's over LaSalle. Pretty self-explanatory. Don't think I need to go into detail there.
We
Then,
must go into detail with A10.
then from there, I've got then from here, third round, I've got VCU over St. Bonaventure. You know, Ryan Odom, I like him a lot. He's a candidate for the NC State job. I like the way he plays. He plays very balanced, you know. He likes to keep his options open with how he beats you. He's very solid defensively. His teams take loads of smart shots, and ultimately, what it is about March, what it is in March, what March is all about is simplifying your game and being able to take the most high percentage shots. March is all about doing the little things right. So give me VCU. Then from there, I've got the Ramblers of Chicago, Loyola Chicago over the St. Louis Billikens. Don't ask me what a Billiken is. I don't fucking know.
I thought it
Then
was
from there,
Pelicans.
no, Belliken. It's like a monster.
Oh, I thought I was just always tripping. I was like, like
No, it's a Billiken. I don't know what a Billiken is. It's a mythical figure who represents things as they ought to be. Another story
I thought
is
ESPN was
another
always
story.
I thought ESPN was always glitching when like I was like, why is it a B? Like, are they like the Pelicans or the Billikens? What? Pelicans?
Another story version of the story says that Billy Gunn, who ran a drugstore near St. Louis University, was responsible for linking the Billiken to SLU. All I hear is drugs, and a Billiken does look like something someone would draw up on an LSD trip. So don't do drugs, kids. So give me the Loyola Ramblers.
Jarvis, give me Billikens.
Jarvis, give me the Billikens. Then from there, we got the Battle of the Georges. For those of you who don't know, the Potomac River rivalry will be renewed in the A10 tournament if things go as planned. But however, forgive me, George Washington to win the Potomac River rivalry over George Mason. Then give me Dayton over St. Joseph's, you know. When in doubt, Dayton it out in the A10. Then from there, I've got VCU versus the Ramblers of Loyola Chicago. If I'm being honest, you know, VCU, like I said, they do it. This is like the straight-laced kid going up against the drug addict, you know. Loyola
Indeed.
Chicago versus St. Louis, I think, is a fist fight. But I think, if I'm being honest, I think, you know, in a fist fight, you know, I think the Loyola Chicago Ramblers, they get scratched by a stray needle. So they're a little tripping in this game. So give me VCU over Loyola Chicago. Then the next game, I've got Dayton versus the George Washington Colonials. You know, all great things must come to an end. You know, General Washington had to retire in the end. So I think here, the Dayton Flyers are going to retire the George Washington Colonials. Then in my A10 final, I've got VCU versus Dayton, in which I've got VCU winning the A10 over Dayton. Obviously, this Dayton team has stuff going for it. This Dayton team did beat a Dan Hurley-led UConn team. They are one of the first teams to beat UConn this season. So credit where credit is due. And Dan Hurley is a good coach. He's got a good scheme, and Dayton was able to take advantage of that. So, but I think Dayton will come up just short in the A10 finals. Any other conferences you'd like to touch on?
Moving on to the Mountain West Conference.
The overrated conference. I'm kidding.
Want to give shout? I just wanted an excuse to talk about Air Force. Air Force has only 4 wins this season, and they're going up against UNLV. Give me UNLV. But San Jose State versus Wyoming. Give me Wyoming. Nevada versus Fresno State. Give me Nevada. Like, no real surprises for me. Maybe I'm just not as in depth when it comes to Mountain West, like the Mountain West Conference when it comes to basketball, but I don't really see any surprises going on in the first round. That leads us to New Mexico versus San Jose State. Give me New Mexico. San Diego State versus Boise State. I don't even know. Like, Boise State's kind of getting in the way of UNC getting into the tournament right now. So give me San Diego State. I think they're going to absolutely there's nothing about this Boise State team that I think they do better than San Diego State. So give me San Diego State. We got Nevada versus Colorado State. Give me Colorado State. Then we got Utah State versus UNLV. I don't know, something about this UNLV team though that I'm feeling against Utah State. Give me UNLV. I got New Mexico versus San Diego State. Give me New Mexico. Colorado State versus UNLV. Give me Colorado State. And then New Mexico versus Colorado State. Give me New Mexico. I just think New Mexico is just overall just more historic and just like better team, able to like capitalize on like moments like these. I see them winning this Mountain West Conference tournament.
Yeah, I agree to a certain extent. I think the Mountain West, it's one of those conferences where I think people call us boring, but I think things shake out the way they're meant to shake out in this conference for a reason. I've got New Mexico I've got San Jose State over Wyoming. I've got Fresno over Nevada, and then UNLV over Air Force. Feel bad for the Air Force Academy. Then from there, I've got New Mexico over San Jose State. Then from there, I've got San Diego beating Boise, Colorado over Fresno, and then Utah State over UNLV. From there, I've got New Mexico. Do I? Think about this. You know what? I've got San Diego State over New Mexico. I feel like they could be interchangeable here. Both really solid programs. Both probably going to make March Madness, but New Mexico probably the more historic program. But honestly, I've got San Diego State. You know, they've got some decent wins. You know, I think they have their trademark win over Creighton this season. So give me San Diego State. Colorado State versus Utah State. I've got Colorado State. They look really good. They've been hot. That's not saying Utah State hasn't been good. I think Utah State is a very, very, very good team who is definitely tournament caliber, but someone's got to win. Then in the finals, I've got San Diego State versus Colorado State. Give me San Diego State to win the Mountain West Men's Basketball Conference. I just really like the San Diego State team. They've got a good resume. They've beaten decent teams down the stretch, so that's why I like them.
Moving on to my last conference prediction, like where we're breaking down a full conference, because most, like all these conferences that we have broken down, they're either have day one starting on Wednesday or day two starting on Wednesday. But we're going into the Big West Conference right now, which is something I know Gareth has tons of ball knowledge on. But we got day one starting UC Santa Barbara versus California State Bakersfield. Give me UC Santa Barbara. Cal Davis versus Cal Poly. This is kind of a toss-up matchup between the two. I think the winner of this is going to be UC Riverside, in my humble opinion. So I got UC Davis beating Cal Poly. Moving on, then we got UC Santa Barbara versus California State Northridge. I got Santa Barbara also winning this one, and Cal Davis beating Riverside, which leads us into the Final Four of the Big West Conference, where we got UC Santa Barbara versus Cal San Diego, and I got San Diego winning this one, and we got Cal Davis versus UC Irvine. I got UC Irvine, which leads to the championship of the 1 and 2 seeds. San Diego versus UC Irvine. I've just seen, historically speaking, I believe it was, I saw something that San Diego has not made the NCAA tournament yet. Is this their time? I don't know. I just seen UC Irvine as the more consistent and historical team, especially as it pertains to the Big West. So give me UC Irvine winning this tournament.
The Big West is certainly an interesting conference. They're made up of essentially purely outside of the teams that make it. They're essentially made up out of essentially all California schools.
Yes.
Hawaii is in it, I believe, for basketball, and I think there's Idaho's in it for men's golf, but that's about it. So first round, I've got UC Santa Barbara over Cal State. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Then I've got UC Davis over Cal Poly. That's mainly just beef about swim. Then I've got UC Davis over Cal Poly. Then from there, I've got UC Santa Barbara over Cal State Northridge. And then from there, got UC Riverside over UC Davis. That gives me a semifinals of UC Santa Barbara and UC San Diego, UC Irvine, and UC Riverside. I've got Riverside over Irvine here, and then I've got San Diego over Santa Barbara. And then for their first ever NCAA tournament berth, I've got UC San Diego winning. Although I will say, I do think UC San Diego could get in if they do not win. Because right now they are a projected 10 seed, depending on who you talk to. And I feel like if you're being projected a 10 seed and they still go to their conference tournament finals and lose, I still like their chances to get in. They're a solid team. And if they're no shade to the Big West, but they're not like A10 level. If you are not an A10 level mid-major and you are slated to be a 10 seed, you are something special.
Yes.
So I am drinking the it wouldn't be the whatever color Kool-Aid. I am drinking the blue and yellow Kool-Aid on UC San Diego. I'm buying into the hype here. So I've got UC San Diego winning the Big West.
Alrighty. That gives us a moment to kind of talk about some tickets that have already been punched, and what I thought was a little bit unpredictable. Like some people might say, "Hey, then you didn't know what you were talking about." In the ASUN, Lipscomb beat North Alabama. I'm not gonna lie, I was seeing this North Alabama team. I thought they were going to make a run for it. I thought they were going to win the tournament and punch their ticket to being like their first chance at being in the NCAA tournament. But unfortunately, this was just not their year. Lipscomb got them, and they have secured their ticket. In today's news, Gonzaga beat St. Mary's. Not really like that. It was like that much of a question if Gonzaga was going to make it into the tournament, but officially their ticket has been punched and they'll be making it to the big dance. And I want to give a shout out to the CAA tournament where we just saw today UMC Wilmington taking down Delaware. I've been telling you guys, I'm high on this UNC Wilmington team. I think they have the makings of the Cinderella team. I just wanted to get it out there one more time. So if people are saying like, oh, nobody saw UNC Wilmington, they came out of nowhere, I just want to say, you heard it here first. This is like, I've been on the UNC Wilmington hype train since about like middle of February. I just want to say, before it happens, I'm calling it. But yeah, there's that. Anything you want to bring up, Gareth?
There's definitely some other teams on here. I'd like to bring up shout out to High Point for making it to their first ever NCAA tournament. Same thing with Omaha as well. There's going to be several teams in here making their first appearance in the March Madness, as well as Southeastern Illinois Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville. So another team. Watford out of the SoCon, we could have predicted that. And then Lipscomb, Aiden and I correctly both predicted the A10 or the ASUN, saying Lipscomb would be the winner out of the ASUN. So
no, I thought I said North Alabama.
You might have said North Alabama, but I had Lipscomb. So currently I'm 1 for 31. So we will see where things shake up from now on in that. What else did you say you wanted to hit on for this?
Um, I mean, there are tournaments that are going on right now. Tonight we are going, or um, we have the semifinals. Like, hang on, dude, why is this not showing? So this Saturday, the American East final is going to be had against Maine and Bryant. Um, I mean, I guess if I had to break this down for you, Bryant has been on a little bit of a tear as of late, beating UMass Lowell, Maine already, New Hampshire, UMBC, UAlbany. The thing is with Bryant, they've kind of been a little bit hot and cold, but I think they have Maine's number right now. They've gone 2-0 against Maine this season, so I'm gonna have to go again. I'm gonna have to go and pick Bryant to win the American East and clinch their ticket. I guess there's that. Let's see if I can find anything else that is worth bringing up right now. Thursday, we have the MAC starting. In the MAC, we have the teams that have made it as Bowling Green, Akron, Ohio, Toledo, Eastern Michigan, Miami, Western Michigan, and Kent State. If I had to pick who I think the champion is going to be of the MAC, I've been pretty high on Miami of Ohio as of late, and I think they can definitely make a run, and I like them. But if not, I think be on the lookout for Akron. Like Akron, they're the number one team in the MAC right now, but like I just like Miami of Ohio a little bit more, but like Akron has been pretty solid. 17-1 in MAC play. So I'd say they are like pretty like the favorite, but I just say be on the lookout for Miami of Ohio. That's just my opinion though. That's about it for me and college basketball that I want to bring up right now. If you want to bring up anything else, you can. If not, uh, we can talk about MMA because I have some stuff I, that's worth mentioning in that.
I think I'm all good. I will mention McNeese plays tonight. I will be watching that, just kind of scouting out possible NC State coaches. But like I said, I likely won't go into too much detail until we kind of narrow down who our coach is. But it's nice to see we are at least getting out after some of these coaches are nice and early, getting ahead of the curve. So that's all I have for college basketball. I'll let you take it away with MMA.
Alrighty, so UFC 313 has wrapped up this weekend. Overall, this was a kind of thin card when it comes to implications of titles, but like I said before, I will cover the two matchups that I predicted. Number one, I got Justin Gaethje versus Rafael Fiziev. Justin Gaethje was able to win in a unanimous decision. Judges had him winning 2 rounds while losing one. Overall, solid performance by Justin Gaethje, and just really good performance, but nothing that I didn't expect coming out of Justin Gaethje, as he is kind of the gatekeeper of the lightweight division, and this old guard of lightweight has just not been looking like it's going to be moving anytime soon. I know Justin Gaethje is going to say that he wants to go for a title shot next. I want to see him fight Charles Oliveira, though. Like, I think that'd be a good fight for him, and I think it'd be much better in like choosing what the implications of the lightweight division are. But as it pertains to light heavyweight, unfortunately for a lot of UFC fans, Alex Pereira has lost. His legendary 2024 run has basically come to a ceremonious close, and we have a new light heavyweight champion in Magomed Ankalaev. This was a unanimous decision. Judges had Alex Pereira, like in the best cases, they had Alex Pereira winning like 2 rounds, but in one judge's case, Alex Pereira only won 1 round. This was utter kind of domination by Magomed Ankalaev. Just a pretty ceremonious end to his reign. Magomed Ankalaev was able to have control on the ground for about 5 minutes and 40 seconds. That was definitely going to be a weak spot of Alex Pereira's game. There were no submission attempts, no successful takedowns, but just being able to knock Alex Pereira down has been kind of like what Magomed Ankalaev was able to do. This was still a pretty big slugfest with substantial, significant strikes going from both sides. But in the end, Magomed Ankalaev was able to pretty soundly take care of Alex Pereira. And that's going to be the end of the legendary title reign for Alex Pereira. I do think he could definitely go for a rematch right now, but I think that's maybe what Dana White might want, because Alex Pereira is a cash cow. But this is going to be how the UFC is now for a little while. A lot of the big names that I can generate a lot of pay-per-views are just not the same names that are winning right now. Magomed Ankalaev, relatively an unknown, I'm not going to say he was an unknown fighter, but to a lot of casuals, nobody really knew who Magomed Ankalaev was prior to today, and he's just not as big of a draw as Alex Pereira was. Some people have said that about other divisions, with Bilal Muhammad taking down the middleweight division, where we had Leon Edwards and Kamaru Usman, some real big guys, but that was just kind of ultimately taken over by Bilal Muhammad. The next biggest name to Alex Pereira that was really a good pay-per-view draw was Sean O'Malley. And the future of him in his division is pretty unknown, especially considering that Merab did take him down, and Merab seems to be very successful in their given division. We're kind of entering a new era of the UFC right now, and that era is there's just not as many stars in the UFC, but I don't think that is a sign that the UFC is going to be in a decline at all. There's just going to be a lot more people coming to the fights for the love of the fights, and not just necessarily the love of the fighters, which I think is going to be very interesting. I'm excited to see what Magomed Ankalaev can do with the light heavyweight title. Do I think he's going to be going down as a light heavyweight GOAT? Not really, considering the fact that John Jones and Daniel Cormier were both light heavyweight champions at a time, and I think their reigns are definitely going to be hard to overcome, especially considering you're just coming off the heels of a legendary light heavyweight run in Alex Pereira. Do I think where Alex Pereira is a light heavyweight GOAT? Absolutely not. But I do think he's going to go down as one of the more entertaining light heavyweight fighters. And I think that's going to definitely sour a lot of fans' perception of light heavyweight, especially when you consider the fact that Magomed Ankalaev might fight in a sense that a lot of fans might perceive as boring. But the future of the light heavyweight title is in Ankalaev's hands, and I'm excited to see where it's going to go from here. UFC 314 is set to start on April 12th. That is 1 month from now. So I'll be reporting that when we get to it. But I'm excited for it, and it looks like I think 314 is going to be a much better fight, depth like a card depth wise, because 313 just didn't have like as many interesting fights as I would have liked. But that kind of sums up my recap of UFC 313. And if there's anything you want to bring up, Gareth, you feel free to go.
Is 314 the one with Patty Pimbit fighting?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Oh no.
Aiden, I'm starting to learn. I'm starting to learn more names. I saw. Yes, I've already forgotten the names of the fighters I watched on Friday or Saturday before I fell asleep. But the one I did enjoy watching, I forget what was the one I watched. It was
Hang on, let me.
It was the one Armenian guy. It was the Armenian guy versus Fiera. That was the one I watched. It was
Bruno Ferreira versus Armen Petrosyan. That was a victory by armbar for Ferreira.
That one was interesting. I wanted to ask you a question. So
yes,
obviously, when you're fighting someone, you're in a moment like. Obviously, in the UFC, there's certain areas like you can't hit, and it's considered unsporting. Like, I can understand hitting that once in a match. Like, you're in fighting. You may not be paying attention where you're hitting them. Like, you're in the moment, so you may not be thinking. But how do you repeatedly hit someone in an area that's just like off limits? Like, what's his name? Putz.
Petrosyan.
Petrosyan had several groin punches and groin kicks to Fiera, like to the point where they deducted points and where they were like, if you do it again, it's a forfeit on your part. Like, is that him just still being kind of caught up in the moment, or is that him like being deliberate and seeing how much he can get away? Because it happened several times, like to the point where I'm like, this has got to be deliberate. Like, granted, I've never played MMA as a sport, but like at some point, if you're breaking a rule that much, like, and my logic is in any other sport, if you were breaking a rule that much, you at least damn well know you're doing it, or you are not experienced enough at the sport. And I definitely think Petrosyan's experienced enough where he'd know that's like not, but that's just my uneducated take.
I can't go into the mind of him, but I can bring out like a couple different things. Number one, I would have to watch the fight again, but like being gassed out is like a very real thing. Like you're expending out a lot of cardio, and sometimes your kicks just don't land where they're supposed to land. Like that, your kicks, your punches, like you think you have like pinpoint accuracy, it's very easy to like mess up and like hit something you don't mean to hit at all. If it's happening repeatedly though, like there's conversations that need to be had, and like usually referees are pretty on top of that and like give timeouts to the party that was affected. And do I think it's like deliberate? Most likely no, but sometimes fighters just do that deliberately and they try to get away with it. But if you're getting caught that much and like you're just kind of going down that way, I do want to say maybe it's just like not necessarily deliberate and maybe you're just gassed out. And like that's just kind of how it goes sometimes. Like I try to like when it comes to like fights, I always try to like number one, there is some degree of malice because like you are fighting somebody and you're trying to like win, but like most of the time, no, don't contribute to malice. What you can contribute to like just being gassed out or like just being whooped so bad that like you can't, like you're in like a point of desperation and you're just trying to get off kicks and punches that will land and you don't care where they land.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I was just curious because I'm like, some of this, I'm like, granted, like I said, I'm not MMA. I'm like, just with how many times he was being warned, I was like,
Yeah.
But like
Which
that
if
does
you
make
if
sense.
like I didn't necessarily catch that one. You have like I will be looking into that one. One thing that is like sometimes if a like ref calls it like just says hey gives a warning like 3 times, that's kind of on the fault of the ref of just not being able to like establish the rules as much. Like if you're just keep on saying I'm gonna probably deduct points from you, that's a lot of fans don't like that. Like like give them 1, 2 warnings. Anything more than that is just like you got to actually stand by what you say.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I also do realize how like even when I'm like not even trying to hit someone, like when I'm in a pool, if I think my leg's clear of someone at some practice, then you clock someone in the head. So
Yeah,
I can understand how it's easy. Like I think I'm clear of someone, and I've actually it's many a times as one practice I've clocked someone in the face, thinking I was well clear of them. Like
yeah,
it just happens.
yeah,
But I wish I kind of stayed awake for uh, the main card fight, but I conked out. I
yeah.
will definitely be drinking plenty of caffeine before the Patty Pimbit fight. I've watched Sugar Sean him like live. I want to be able to watch Patty Pimbit live. I see all the Patty Pimbit clips, but I've never seen him fight. So
Yeah, yeah. But
but
in a
I want to
couple
see.
weeks, I will probably cover the UFC Fight Night on March 22nd. We got Leon Edwards versus Sean Brady, and we got a bunch of other good, like honestly, uh, very solid card for a fight night. I will probably be bringing that up in a couple weeks, but actually next week. But that kind of just uh, no real news other than that in the MMA world.
Yeah. Um. I think that'll do it for me as well. I don't really have any soccer news. Um. College baseball. The only thing I'll say is State continues to get back on track. They went 3-0 over Wright State, and then they won their midweek out of conference rivalry game against NC A&T today. I think that means NC State's at either 14 or 13-5 right now. So nice turnaround after the like 4-game slide. Do I think they should be back in the rankings? No, I think NC State's best bet right now is to stay low profile and just kind of do what they did last year and just focus on winning ACC series at this point. If you can trade 2-for-1 every weekend going out, I don't expect 3-0 sweeps. ACC baseball is like where it's at when it comes to baseball. I mean, obviously you got SEC baseball, but ACC baseball is not given the credit it deserves. I mean, granted, college baseball in general, not given the credit it deserves. But if you can win more ACC series than you don't, I think you're set to make it to Omaha. I think for NC State, like I said, the key here is to try and trade 2-for-1s. Win 2 games out of every 3-game series. And I think you trade 2-for-1s the rest of the way here out. I think NC State finishes ranked, hosts a regional, not necessarily super regional, but if they can go on that path. I mean, obviously, I do think there will be some series where they lose. I mean, the ACC is kind of stacked this year, but after seeing how Virginia played this past weekend, where they got swept, I'm not as confident in Virginia. But seems like UNC and Wake Forest are pretty high on. Wake Forest baseball, always good.
Yeah,
Wake baseball is kind of the sport where Wake takes their anger from the other sports out on the rest of the conference. So, and no shade to Wake Forest when I say that they've just done so well in building a really good baseball program there. That's
yeah, absolutely. UNC unfortunately did slide 2 games against Stanford, losing uh, ending their undefeated season. But UNC also able Tuesday to get a win against UNC Wilmington. This is kind of going to stack up nicely for our weekend slate of games where UNC will be going to Louisville this weekend. The battle of the 2 lost teams, UNC sitting at 15-2, Louisville sitting at 13-2. I'm very excited for this series. If I can find a way to watch it without getting ACC extra, I'll see if I can. Um, But overall, pretty solid look for UNC right now. I'm excited to see what NC State does against Virginia Tech this weekend. Both very solid teams. Just overall, ACC looking like pretty stacked this year, and I'm excited to see what's going on.
I'm hoping this year an ACC team brings home an Omaha trophy in Omaha because every team's been so close the past couple of years. I mean, you have NC State last year, and then in 2021 as well.
Hmm.
You've had Virginia teams, Wake Forest teams, Carolina teams really close over the past couple of weeks. And what I will say about NC State is the kinks that were going wrong in that 4-game slide seem to be ironed out. I just think the bats weren't going in those games. It's not necessarily the defense played that bad during those games. It's just they're starting to figure it out. I'm going to look and see if I can find State's record real quick. College baseball, it's kind of hard to keep track of record because they play hey guys, you want to see me cram 40 games into 2 months?
Want to see me do it again?
Yeah, and then want to see me do it again? So, I mean, obviously, like I said, NC State's got a lot of young talent, but that's not something like I said. Unlike other state coaches, I have faith in Elliot Avent. He's been the state coach since I think my dad was little. So this dude knows what he's doing. Even when things are going awry, he can iron it out. So not too terribly worried. I'm just doing a quick record check on NC State baseball just because I'm curious and I don't want to be wrong on air. Not that this is live on air, but it saves me editing and post. We may do a live show if that's something interesting. Oh, yeah. NC State is 12-5, so not bad for where they are.
Yeah,
but that's really all I have for college baseball. You got anything else to add?
Nope.
All right, I think that'll do it for us today. If NC State hires anyone in the next 48 hours, there'll probably be an emergency press conference, but I don't know. That might wait. I doubt they will be, as the majority of the head coaching candidates that we have are head coaches themselves of teams that are in March Madness or likely will be in March Madness. The only one who's not is an assistant coach at Tennessee. So we'll see how that goes. But for right now, thank you guys for listening in, and we will see you all next week.